Access to nutritious food is fast becoming the predominant issue of our era, with latest statistics showing that 1 child dies every 10 seconds from hunger. The United Nations has declared 2014 the International Year of Family Farming. It hopes that in doing this, it will start to make a dent in the problem that hunger is bringing. The United Nations and common logic is saying that if you have a hungry person and you teach them to grow their own food, you will have full and healthy bellies. And in doing this, they feel the problem is solved. I don't feel that this is the correct way to look at this problem. The focus of the problem should not be on the hunger aspect, but on the actual growing of the food. This gray area between being hungry and full is the chasm between these two paradigms that is not working currently. I want to look at the problem as why are more people not growing their own food? And in looking at this problem, I began to find a simple solution to this problem. And that simple solution is real gardening, taking into account many of the issues that people are currently facing in growing their own gardens and coming up with a simple solution. So what real gardening does is it encases seed and fertilizer in a biodegradable paper tape at the correct depth and distance apart. All of the other instructions you need to get growing are located on the paper tape. All you need to do is place it in the ground so that the white area is buried below the surface and the green area or colored area, depending on what vegetable you're planting, is visible. You then just need to add a little bit of water, 80% less water to be exact, and your plants come up exactly where they need to be, and you've only used the resources you need to use to get started. It doesn't matter the type of soil you have, the level of your education, the resources. All you need to understand is how to put a little bit of paper in the ground and add whatever water you have available. So as I now wanted to grow my planting revolution, the next thing I wanted to do was to get a garden started at my school. Another seemingly simple task. And instead of looking at this problem as, why isn't there a garden at my school? I started to look at the problem as, why did the school not want to plant the garden? And I started to realize that the concept of getting a garden started at a school was far more complex with regards to understanding the type of seasonality, the seeds, what to choose, where to plant it, pesticides, harvesting. And it became something that people felt overwhelmed by. And the concept of starting wasn't as easy as 1, 2, 3. It became something that people just felt intimidated by and therefore decided not to start. So my simple solution became a garden in a box. And this system has now been successfully implemented in many schools across South Africa, this one in particular in KwaZulu-Natal, where each one of these children got excited and involved in setting up the garden. And now the food from the school garden goes to the school feeding scheme, and each one of these children is benefiting daily from that food. So what is the garden in a box? It simply is a pre-packed garden that all the beds are packed according to companion planting, all of the necessary herbs and flowers that prevent pests and bring the pollinators are already inside the individually packed beds. It's all set out according to companion planting, but also according to the location and the season. So if you are in Gauteng and you want to plant in September, all you have to do is follow that color-coded diagram, set out the beds, and add a little bit of water. Get that I can attitude back instead of the I don't know where to start. But now I wanted to create systemic change. I wanted to create a movement to stop this cycle, which seems to just continue generation after generation, and it's only getting worse. And how do we do this? We do this through education. I wanted to be able to link the school garden to the curriculum, the existing curriculum, the math, science, life skills curriculum, enabling these teachers, giving them a set of activities and tools that they can then take their class outside and start to treat the school garden as an extension of the classroom, taking on experiential learning and getting kids excited again about where plants come from, looking after the environment, and the miracle that is the growth of a seed. Each child is then empowered to go home and plant their own household garden at home as part of their homework. They then start to learn what should be contained in a healthy meal. How can I help my parents to achieve this within our household? And how can I then teach my parents to continue to do this for our household moving forward? We've been able to grow our planting revolution from Johannesburg to Limpopo, being able to affect thousands of children along the way. I wanted to get everyone growing, not just the people within the peri-urban and rural areas that I've been working with, but every single person, as you are sitting here today, to go home and look at a portion of their ground, be it a little window box or a little piece beside the curb, and understand that you can get started growing your own, and to make it simple. So what I did was I pre-packed household gardens. You've got salad gardens, herb gardens, kiddies gardens, depending on what size you have available and what you want to plant. All you have to do is add a little water. And the great thing about our product is that in the actual manufacturing of the product, it's all handmade by previously unemployed mothers, using no technology, no electricity, a simple technology that can be scaled according to the demand we have and therefore create more jobs. The other beauty of the product is that for every percentage of product sold within a higher income environment, a percentage goes to putting together a project within one of the many schools that need this kind of program to get their children eating. So we come back to the question I posed at the beginning. Can anyone solve a big problem? Come up with a simple idea? Well, I'll tell you my story, and then you can make the choice. It all started when I was a 16-year-old girl. My parents said if I planted a vegetable garden at home, they would buy it from me, and that was how I was going to make my pocket money. I was overwhelmed by the surplus and the amount of seed, tools, fertilizer I needed. But when I ended up sitting inside that vegetable garden, mind you, with a very good grade 10 education at that point, I couldn't get the plants planted correctly. And I felt like I didn't have enough hands, and I needed additional help. Maggie, our domestic worker, came to my aid. So I asked Maggie to pass me the seeds one by one and tell me what was said on the back of the seed packets. It was only when Maggie said to me that she couldn't understand what the seed packets were telling her to do. She began to relay her story of when she planted in her own garden in Rustenburg. And she said she sprinkled the seeds on the ground because that's all she knew how to do. And she could only buy one variety, and that's all she could afford at the store. But she said the biggest heartbreak was when the seeds were eaten by the birds, and she couldn't tell what the difference between a plant and a weed was. So she used her precious water, which she walked sometimes a 2-kilometer round trip, on sometimes a bare patch of earth or a weed, in the hope that food would grow. Maggie felt that she was inferior and could not properly grow her own food, and that's why she never tried again. And that is when I started to get to the bottom of that is the problem. The problem is not we need to start growing our own food to feed ourselves. The problem is why can't we at the moment? And that solution became very simple. So at the age of 16, that's Maggie and I, at the age of 16, I came up with this really simple solution. While I was failing at science, I actually got recognition because I entered it into a school science project in the hope that I would just get extra science marks to get into the next year. So taking it from almost craft project, entering it into a science competition, just in the hope to get extra marks, ended up getting me an International Science Award and has gotten people like Richard Branson excited about the planting revolution that is possible. And over the last 3 years, we've had more than 150 successful projects across South Africa and now going into more parts of Africa, feeding thousands of children each year. But when we look back at those statistics of a child dying every 10 seconds to hunger, I hope that through my work, every day, there is one less child dying within South Africa. Thank you.